Hi, folks. This is my my latest attempt to discover, to find or invent the perfect raspberry drink. These are raspberry. This is there's a basis of sparkling wine, like sect cheap sparkling wine, and then I on top of that I put on levels of raspberry flavored drinks, including like raspberry liqueur, and there's two or three other raspberry-ish alcoholic drinks in there. And I'm looking for like the perfect raspberry, like the raspberry flavor that will just kick you in the head. You know, the ultimate raspberry is just like the perfect fruit for me. It's maybe it's because of the smell. You know, people say that the smell of raspberry is the main thing, and the taste actually doesn't taste. The taste is not as intense as the smell, which is probably true. But so I've tried, all my life to find the perfect raspberry kick in the head drink, and I think I'm closer. There's about 3 or 4 alcoholic drinks mixed in with this, and it's pretty good. It tastes more or less like raspberry. It's fairly intense, and a little weird. I don't know if I should be doing this. I probably shouldn't be doing this. Well, okay. So this week, what happened this week? 22,000 people died in an earthquake in the blink of an eye in a place that, kind of generally suffers in general anyway. And the thing is, I've been working on kind of a project off and on. I fall in love with projects. I think, and this is when I talk about ADHS, I think this is what I think about whenever I some project occurs to me. I fall in love with it and immediately sit down and start writing it, and then I abandon it later. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do abandon it. Sometimes they turn out to be bad ideas. Sometimes they turn out to be good ideas that I keep wanting to do and work on once in a while. And this is an idea inspired by a Wordsworth poem. And a Wordsworth poem is the Intimations of Immortality. Classic Wordsworth, a horrible poem, a terrible poem. Don't tell, if a school teacher listen to this, and there will be no school teachers listening to this, but if a school teacher were to listen to this, he would roll over in his grave, even if he's not dead. Wordsworth is like this classic, romantic English poet, and the poem is just horrible. It's just convoluted. He's in love with himself. It's just, like all poets, I guess. But it's just. It comes from this phase in English poetry where English poets thought they had to write like Latin poets did, so they shifted the verb around the subject, and there was no, you had to go through like the poem with a looking glass, looking for the various grammatical parts of the sentence and put them back together again to figure out what is being said. And that's what the poem, it's really annoying. But there's a part of the poem, the beginning part, that kind of stuck with me, whether I liked it or not. And that is, it talks about childhood being a magical time because you are closer to where you came from. Closer to God, but also closer to where you came from. In other words, he's talking about the pre-existence, which is a religious concept. I know this concept as a Mormon because I grew up as a Mormon, and we had this concept in the Mormon church, the pre-existence, which you existed as a spirit before coming to earth, and you came to earth to gain a body. And that's what you did, and it's not only a Mormon idea. It's an idea that's also in other Protestant churches and part of Protestantism. And he was he a Protestant? I think he was. I don't know actually. It doesn't matter. It's the idea of pre-existence is what he was talking about, basically. And so you come, you exist before you come to earth, and you inhabit in a body, and which is very much like, this whole trans movement going on now, where people say, I feel like I've been born into the wrong body. What they're talking about, without knowing it, probably they don't even know it, is the spiritual idea of pre-existence, where they are implying that they believe that they lived before in spirit and were put in the wrong body, and their spirits were female and their bodies were male. So it's kind of even this transgender, transsexual saying that people have has actually a spiritual, religious background, which is kind of weird. People don't realize that, though. But anyway, okay, so pre-existence. He said when you're a child, you still have the memory, kind of a fading, vague memory of what was before, of being with God. And it's a beautiful concept, and it just stuck with me. It stuck with me maybe because we Mormons have a relationship to pre-existence, but I wonder if that's true. I mean, you got to wonder. There is something magical about being a child where you see things or you understand the world in a different way that you do when you're an adult. And a scientist would say, well, that's just because, blah, 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 psychological, the development of the brain and all that. But I don't know. So I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. And then I started thinking, well, so death would be the return to that place, right? And so then I started writing that down. I started writing little notes about the pilgrimage of the soul from that place before through earth life with all its specific things, all its specific feelings. It's real, that you feel the pain, you feel the joy, you feel the ecstasy, you feel the depression, you all these, you have a name, things have colors, you have an edge, you have a knife, you cut yourself, you bleed, the knife cuts through flesh, there's something vague about it. It's real things. And before, when you were a spirit, it was all presumably all vague and kind of like a mishmash of just kind of, indefinable, murky impressions. But here you come to Earth and you go through and it's everything is very clear. Things actually happen. And then you leave Earth again and you go out of Earth back to that place where you were. And I wondered how that would be, You're going back to a place where there was no specific feelings or impressions. It was all just kind of a spiritual thing. The physical body, you had not experienced the horrors and the wonders of physical life. But now So when you pass back into the pre-existence or the post-existence, whatever, you presumably, or I imagine, that you would take your impressions of physical life, your knowledge, your understanding of physical life, these the hard cut, the edges, the contours, the differences, the coincidences, the accidents, the tragedies, the happinesses, the lack of control over life with you, and then that would change everything. That would change who you are and how you see, the world. You probably, I imagine, in the pre-existence, you didn't understand that you were an individual person, and in the post-existence, you would then be an individual person among other individual people or spirits, and be at one with them at the same time. Okay, so that's what I was thinking of, right? So that's what I'm writing down. Okay, so I wrote it down in a kind of a project on one, but thinking maybe I can turn this into some kind of a little book or something, or some kind of a just nothing, whatever. And then in the middle of this, thinking about death, what death is. Right. And I assume, I'm not nuts. Okay, so I assume that death probably is 99%. The chances are that death is just nothing. I mean, I do respect science, and I think probably science does have the upper hand in the age-old fight between religion and science. But I would prefer it the other way around. So that's why I think about death in this way a lot. And it's just and it's kind of a game, and whenever writers think about death and write about death, they write, these big words and these big ideas and feelings about death that is very dramatic. But in fact, they're just goofing around. They're just thinking about death in kind of a playtime way. They're pretending to think about death. But then this earthquake comes and 22,000 people die, in one shot. Some of them, of course, lived a couple of days, and then, I don't want to think about that, but you think about that, and these guys were not goofing around. They were not, poets, or maybe some were, but they were just guys. They were just, going to school. They were having friends. They were playing around. They were doing their work. They were having an affair. They were, splitting up with their wife. They were getting married. They were falling in love. They were going to the movies. They were looking forward to, seeing their friends, next weekend, and then this rips them out of life. And this darkness that they embed, it's real. It's not just some guy sitting around drinking some, overly sweet, overly alcoholic nonsense drink and bullshitting into a camera. And that's just really frightening and scary. And you just realize, man, when that comes, it's going to be an instant of truth, of real, brutal, dark, black truth coming down on you, and you cannot lift a finger to change it. And so what do we learn from this? I'll tell you what we learn from this. We learn that until that earthquake comes, we enjoy life. We enjoy the hell out of it. We cherish every moment. We cherish even the bad moments, even the crying moments, even the, no one loves me moments. And I have I'm a generally depressed guy, so I have a lot of that. And I've learned to enjoy depression with a lot of crappy, weird raspberry drinks. You enjoy life. You embrace the good and the bad. You have a good day. You accept that you didn't get as much done this week as you wanted to. I didn't. I got something done. It wasn't a bad week, but you're late to work. You embrace it. You say, hey, I could die tomorrow in an earthquake. I could die tomorrow in whatever. I could, and you eat those chips. You get on the machine after the chips. You got to work it off again. You got to take life seriously, of course, but on the weekend, eat the chips, drink the raspberry drink, get the, fall in love with some girl and have a child you never planned to have. Do something crazy, do something you regret, get into trouble, live your life, man. Those people. It's just crushing. It's crushing. You cannot fight death. No matter what you think about it, the little games you play, the goofiness of your mind, all you can do is love your life. So that's it. That's all I have to say to you and to myself. I'm looking at myself in the camera as I say this, and I'm saying, Eric, love your life, man. Cheers. Have a good weekend, everyone. Have a good week. Love you all. I hope you love yourself. Goof off. Drink the drink. Eat the cookies. Fall in love with the girl. Whatever you need to do. Live your life. Good night.